The case today takes us back to a crime that happened in Australia in the year 2007. This is the first official record of a crime involving the fatal victim of an online predator. After this case, Australia implemented measures and enacted laws to curb this behaviour. This is the story of Carly Ryan. Carly Ryan, born on January 31st, 1992, was a happy Australian teenager. And when this case happened in 2007, she lived with her mother Sonia and her younger brother Bailey in the city of Adelaide in South Australia. In 2005, at the age of 13, Carly was a user of the social network MySpace. At the time, MySpace dominated the market, surpassing Google in access during certain periods since its launch in 2003. MySpace was a platform where users created personal profiles, shared blogs, formed groups and uploaded photos, music and videos, making it a platform to forge new friendships based on common interests and passions. This was where she met Brandon Kane. Brandon Kane was a boy who used the nickname Corrupt Koala on the website. He was 15 years old at the time, and although he lived in Melbourne, Australia, he was born in the American state of Texas. Brandon and Carly shared common interests, and both were fans of the popular 2000s subculture known as emo, which evolved from punk rock. Melbourne and Adelaide are cities that are practically 750 kilometres away from each other, but despite the distance between them, the two connected, creating a lasting friendship through their extended conversations. Carly never hid her friendship with Brandon from anyone, especially her mother, who was practically her best friend. Sonia had always been attentive to the relationship and would occasionally peek at the computer while she was chatting with Brandon and had never seen anything that worried her. The conversations were always about music, movies and dreams. Beyond the digital realm, Carly said that Brandon was cute, that he frequently complimented her in a genuine way. Soon, she found herself falling in love, and not long after, she realised she was in a long-distance relationship. Now at 14, Carly, a young woman going through the typical teenage quest for identity, found a dream come true as the two shared numerous common interests. Their friendship had blossomed into a romance. Carly spent months keeping in touch with Brandon through messages and calls. She was, however, blinded by passion to the dangers of trusting a stranger. Alongside, Sonia followed the virtual couple's interactions. Shane, Brandon's father, did the same. He was always commenting on the couple's posts, showing his support in some way. In January 2007, Carly organised preparations for her 15th birthday party, scheduled to be held on the 26th of the same month. Eager to finally meet Brandon in person, Carly decided to invite him. However, when she made the invitation, Brandon quickly declined, apologising and saying that he would be out of the country. Instead, he offered his father to go in his place and present her with a gift. Coincidentally, Shane, Brandon's father, would be in Adelaide at the same time attending to work matters. To be sure she wasn't inviting someone dangerous into her home, Sonia called Shane a few days before his arrival. She wanted to learn more about Brandon's father. According to Sonia, he left an excellent impression on her. He spoke politely, talked about his life, and mentioned his work in security. He informed her that he would be in the area on the day of the party and expressed his desire to personally deliver Brandon's gift because he wanted to meet the girl his son was madly in love with. Sonia, although hesitant, finally agreed. On the night of January 26th, Shane arrived and was well received. He wore a uniform jacket that had a company badge. Underneath he wore was a shirt featuring the image of singer Marilyn Manson, a singer Carly was a fan of. The party went well until Shane decided to leave, explaining that he needed to find a hotel to spend the night because he had to wake up early for work the next day. However, Sonia reluctantly but politely invited him to stay over. He graciously accepted. The next morning, as Sonia passed by Carly's room, she was horrified to see Shane sleeping in Carly's bed. Even though he was fully dressed, that scene was shocking to her. Sonia shouted at him, demanding that he leave the house immediately. Without saying a word, Shane got up, picked up his things and left, while Sonia continued yelling at him. After Shane left, Sonia went to check if her daughter was okay. As I said previously, in addition to their mother-daughter relationship, they shared a strong bond of friendship. Carly didn't think twice about confiding in her mother and telling her everything that had happened since the previous night. At the beginning of the party, Shane behaved well, but as the evening progressed, he joined Carly and her friends and revealed a repulsive side. He made impolite comments and asked rude questions. He also attempted to manipulate the girls into kissing in front of him. He also harassed Carly and acted aggressively when she interacted with other boys at the party. Although she felt uncomfortable, Carly tried her best to downplay the situation, as she didn't want to create a bad impression or ruin the special occasion. Shane exhibited several strange attitudes, especially when he saw Carly talking to her ex-boyfriend. Each time Carly approached her ex, Shane drew her attention by threatening to tell Brandon everything. This worried her and caused her to avoid further conversations with the boy, her ex-boyfriend, during the party. Carly's friends were disgusted with Shane, and some of them decided to leave the party early. Shane's behaviour was concerning. Everything about Shane showed evidence that he could be a sex maniac, from his possessive behaviour to the alarming gift he bought. He presented Carly with a set of underwear including lingerie and a nurse's sexual costume. Carly thought the gifts were very impolite and hid them, once again not wanting to create an uncomfortable atmosphere at the party. Carly also said the night he slept in the room, Shane touched her inappropriately. Sonia burst into tears, thinking that it was her fault for opening her doors to a monster. She demanded that Carly cut all contact with Brandon and Shane. Carly, still consumed by worry about her relationship, begged her mother to reconsider her decision and forgive Shane. She was worried that Shane's actions could affect her relationship with Brandon. However, her mother didn't change her mind. Sonia was determined to protect her family, so she confiscated Carly's mobile device and cut off the internet connection to prevent any communication between Shane, Brandon, or Carly. Sonia also emailed Shane, warning him not to contact her family anymore. To emphasize on the limits she set when she kicked him out of her house, she threatened to involve the police if he or Brandon got in touch with any of them. To Sonia's dismay, Shane replied to her email in an unexpected manner. He used extremely offensive language, accusing her of spreading lies. He wrote something like, "Bitch, please, this email is full of lies and heresy. It sickens me that someone with reasonable intelligence could believe this rubbish to be true. The things you accuse me of are completely defamatory, and I'm forwarding your email to my lawyer." 3 weeks later, on the night of February 19th, Carly had a sleepover hosted by one of her friends. Her mother, still worried about recent events, had been keeping an eye on her daughter's moves and actions. Thus, she gave a cautious approval. The next morning, that is the 20th, Sonia received a call from an unfamiliar number. A man said he had found a lost bag with some documents and Sonia's phone number inside. Sonia asked where he found it, and he said in the shallow part of Port Elliot Beach. Port Elliot was a beach 80 kilometres south of Adelaide. There was no reason for Carly to be there, Sonia thought. She wrote down the man's number and said she would return his call as soon so she could gather her belongings. After that, she decided to call her daughter's phone, which coincidentally she had returned to Carly days before, but Carly's mobile phone was turned off. Extremely worried, Sonia then called the friend's house where Carly supposedly had gone last night. But to her utter despair, the girl's father said that Carly had not shown up there that night. Sonia then decided to call the police to start the search for her missing daughter. But unfortunately, on that same day, she got a call from the police saying that the body of an unidentified young woman with the same characteristics as Carly had been found on the beach in Port Elliot, and she needed to be present for possible identification of the body. The pain that Sonia felt upon receiving this news is something that to this day cannot be described. On the morning of February 20th, almost a month after her daughter's 15th birthday, and less than 24 hours after saying goodbye to her for the last time, Sonia identified the body as that of her daughter, Carly. That day, Sonia lost more than a daughter. She lost a piece of herself. The place where Carly was found bore grim evidence. There were marks in the sand that showed signs of pursuit and struggle. The girl's jewellery lay shattered and scattered all over the beach. The police also unearthed a latex glove and bloodstains in some spots in the area, marking the battleground of her final struggle. The autopsy report painted a distressing picture. It revealed that Carly had suffered 19 different injuries, 6 to 8 of which were caused by blows to the head. Marijuana substances were identified in her bloodstream and beach sand in her esophagus. The cause of death would have been a cruel fusion of facial trauma and asphyxiation, which probably occurred in the early hours of the ill-fated 20th. No one from the family or group of friends could explain why Carly was on that beach on the night of the 19th. Investigators sprung into action and examined city security footage. Their focus, Carly, was last seen on the outskirts of Port Elliot on February 19th, in the company of 2 men, one youthful and the other middle-aged, at 7:04 p.m. A witness recounted seeing Carly with 2 men walking on the beach at around 9:30 p.m. and that their profile matched those of the 2 men on the surveillance cameras. The same witness claimed she saw a blue car parked on the beach, although she obviously didn't remember the license plate of the car. She remembered seeing a security badge with the number 24 hanging from the air vent on the passenger seat. With all these facts coming to light, Sonia told the police about the incident that happened on her daughter's birthday, the exchange of emails with Shane, and about the virtual relationship her daughter had with Brandon. Investigations to find the suspects have now moved to the virtual sphere. The investigators delved into the digital world. They searched all of Brandon's messages, both in conversations with Carly and with her friends. Experts clearly identified a manipulative profile woven in the boy's words. Messages exchanged directly with the victim showed that he was trying to isolate Carly from her circle of friends, leaving only him in her circle. The messages showed a mixture of charm and coercion. It is also worth mentioning that the messages were exchanged before and after the incident on her 15th birthday. That means, against her mother's wishes, Carly never cut contact with Brandon. She probably accessed her school or friend's computer to engage with Brandon. As the police knew that the couple were also talking on the phone, they traced the phone numbers that were used to contact Carly, and they discovered the phone lines had origins in both Adelaide and Melbourne, the city that was practically 750 kilometres away from her home. As the puzzle pieces aligned, the truth emerged. A story of manipulation, distance, and the victim caught in the crosshairs. The police traced the phone number registered to Shane and Brandon, only to discover they were fake. Some of the calls originated from the antennas in the suburb of Walkerville, a location less than 10 kilometres from Carly's house, and the police knew that the location was known for campervans parking, a detail they found interesting. The police thought that perhaps, at some point, the suspects were there with a camping group and went there to investigate. But when they got there, what did they find? 2 men, an adult and a teenager, sharing the same characteristics as the 2 men identified in the security camera images. They were 48-year-old Gary Francis Newman and a teenager whose identity was not revealed as he was a minor. He was aged 17 at that time. The vehicle, however, was registered to an address in Melbourne. As the police arrived in Melbourne, their eyes were drawn to a familiar sight: the blue car with the same characteristics that the witness saw parked near the beach on the night of the crime. Furthermore, the badge with the number 24 was hanging in the same spot mentioned. As the police began to search the house, they found more than they bargained for. In a drawer, they found several sheets of paper with different names, emails, nicknames, and passwords. There were more than 200 fake profiles, 2 of which were Brandon and Shane. On the computer, they found open chat windows with several more teenagers, with whom one of them had recently spoken. They also found a digital camera with some saved photos, and one of those photos was of Gary and Carly on her 15th birthday party. Therefore, on March 3rd of that same year, 11 days after the young woman's death, Gary and the teenager were arrested on murder charges. But who was the boy who was in the security camera footage? And why was he with Gary when they approached in the campervan parking lot? The boy was indeed identified as Gary's son. However, there is a huge hole in information given because everything involving the investigation of Gary's son has never been published as he was a minor. The case itself, before going to trial, was also under secrecy, and it is because of this lack of information that a lot of details involving this boy remain unknown. It was later realized, during the investigations, that the fake profiles were created specifically to be used with certain victims, as they were created based on the interests published by their victims on social networks such as MySpace. The prosecution put together a version of the facts as a base for accusation. They claimed that Gary was the mastermind who orchestrated it all, and that his son was manipulated and hired by his father for no apparent reason to pretend to be Brandon on the day of the meeting. As a huge part of information about the teenager was not published, we don't have a lot of details about why he agreed to this. The night before the sleepover, Carly had probably made plans to meet Gary because he said his son would be in town, and Carly, unfortunately, without her mother's knowledge, had accepted the invitation. After the 3 met, Gary drove 80 kilometers to the beach where she was abused by Gary. They believe the victim had her face pressed against sand, as sand was found in her esophagus. After the crime, Gary didn't try to hide the body, he didn't throw it in the water. After the act, he simply walked away, leaving her all alone. The version told about what happened on the beach did not include the son as a participant in the crime. Everything involving the son in this case is unknown. 2 years and 8 months after his arrest, Gary went to the courtroom in October 2009. The defense arguments were so ridiculous that they were a joke. For example, he claimed that he was asexual, that he did not see Carly as a partner. Instead, he cast himself as a fatherly figure. He didn't stop there. He also claimed that he suffered from bouts of OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder. In other words, he had every possible illness, but curiously had never sought any psychological or psychiatric treatment. He also said that he never talked to Carly through Brandon's profile. According to Gary, it was his son chatting with Carly, not him. The night they met, the three said their goodbyes and left her on the beach because she preferred to go home alone, he claimed. Prosecution believed that Brandon's account was used by both, jointly or at different times. In the son's statement, however, what is known is that when Gary returned from Carly's birthday party, he was furious and was determined to return to Adelaide to correct her behaviour. He also said that his father's conversations with the girl on the night at the beach crossed boundaries, reaching to the point where he attacked Carly when she resisted his demands. He denied any involvement in the crime and added that he suffered threats from his own father if he told anyone what really happened. In other words, Gary said that they were both innocent, but for the son, the father was the only one responsible for the heinous act. The jury's deliberation lasted 10.5 hours over a period of 2 days, and many were afraid that the accused would go unpunished, as it was the first time that a case involving virtual crime, passing into the tax sphere with a fatal victim, was being tried in Australia. The final verdict was, for creating a deceptive plan of seduction and murder, Gary was sentenced to life in prison with the right to parole after 29 years. As for the son, as there was no direct evidence involving him in any part of the process that went from the first contact on the internet in 2005 to the crime in 2007, the former minor, now 19 years old, was acquitted of any accusation. His identity and information details on everything involving this boy, as I said, remains confidential to this day. At the time the crime happened, social media was a new thing. Online predatory behaviour, with the possibility of affecting other people's emotions on the other side of the screen, was a difficult idea to formalise. The following year, after the trial and tragedy that stole her daughter, Sonia decided to protect others from the same digital abyss. She created the Carly Ryan Foundation, an online security program that offers seminars, lectures, and assists investigations into this type of online behaviour, with part of the money it receives from donations. The project also offers other services and support, which detail specific dangers in certain applications and social networks, in addition to contributing to improvements and reforms in the laws surrounding this subject. Sonia is also now part of the Working Education and Prevention Group to combat child exploitation in Australia. Her dedication to all these projects led to her winning the 2013 Australian Personality Award and a nomination for the Human Rights Representative Award in 2017 for passing a bill called Carly's Law, where people caught online lying about their age to minors can be prosecuted and face criminal charges. Sonia, to this day, does everything she can to make Carly's name remembered. She hopes that her work and efforts, mistakes and successes serve in some way as an example to save other children and teenagers from similar dangers. For every Carly, for every vulnerable heart, she stood, a force to reckon with. Carly Ryan made history, in a sad way, as officially being the world's first fatal victim of an online sexual predator and a warning against the unseen dangers that hides behind screens. We express our deepest sympathies to the victim's family. If you've made it this far, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Also, add your opinion in our comments. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next case.